Mina wiped the sweat from her forehead as she balanced a tray of tea in the small cafe where she worked. The sun had just begun to rise, painting the streets of the city with a soft golden light. She loved the quiet mornings, even if life itself had been far from easy. Mina's family had struggled for years, and she had learned early how to survive on little. Her small apartment was modest, barely enough for her and her younger brother, Sammy, who depended on her entirely. Every morning, she reminded herself that she had to work hard not just for herself, but for the people she loved. Mina had dreams, small ones, to live without fear of money, to see Sammy happy, and maybe, one day, to find someone who truly cared for her. But that day, her life was about to change in ways she could never imagine. Across the city, Armin, a billionaire CEO known for his sharp mind and cold demeanor, was preparing for a crucial meeting. He had built an empire from nothing, but his personal life was empty. He was respected and feared in business circles, but few had ever seen the man behind the power. He didn't trust people easily, and he rarely let anyone get close. His assistant, careful and precise, handed him the morning report. "Sir, the antidote proposal is ready. But you may need someone reliable to oversee it personally." Armin raised an eyebrow. "I will meet her then. Send her the invitation." The her was Mina. She had no idea that the invitation would change her life. When she opened the official-looking email that morning, she nearly dropped her phone. It was an offer from one of the most powerful companies in the country, asking her to attend a private meeting with the CEO himself. The message was polite but strict. She had no choice. It was either this meeting or risk losing a much-needed opportunity to help her family. With a deep breath, Mina dressed in her best outfit, simple but clean, and left for the towering building in the city center. Her heart raced with fear and curiosity. She had never met anyone like Armin. The world he lived in seemed distant and unreal to her, yet now she had to step into it. The lobby was vast, with polished marble floors and shining glass walls. Mina felt small, almost invisible, as she walked toward the receptionist. She explained her name, and the receptionist smiled politely. "Please take the elevator to the top floor. Mr. Armin will see you there." As the elevator doors closed, Mina's mind spun. What did he want from her? Why her? She tried to steady her shaking hands. When the doors opened, she stepped into a hallway lined with expensive art. Finally, she reached the large office doors. A deep voice called, "Come in." Inside, Armin was standing by the window, looking out over the city. He was tall, dressed in a perfectly tailored suit, his expression calm but unreadable. When he turned to see her, his eyes were sharp, assessing. Mina felt a shiver run down her spine. She had never seen anyone who looked so powerful, so confident. "Please, have a seat," Armin said, gesturing to the chair opposite him. His voice was deep, smooth, but commanding. Mina sat down, clutching her bag tightly. She could feel her heart pounding. "Thank you for meeting me, sir," she said politely. Armin nodded. "I assume you know why you are here." Mina hesitated. She had an idea, but nothing concrete. I received your email, sir. Something about a special project." He studied her for a moment, then leaned back in his chair. "Yes. This project is important. It requires someone smart, reliable, and unafraid to face challenges. You were recommended." Mina's eyes widened. "Me? Why me?" "Because you have something rare," Armin said slowly. "You have strength. You have resilience. And right now, I need someone who can stand by me not as an employee, but as a solution to a problem I cannot solve alone." Mina swallowed hard. The words were confusing, but she could sense the seriousness in his tone. She had faced many challenges in her life, but nothing like this. I. I'll do my best, sir, she said quietly. Armin's gaze softened just slightly. Good. I need you to understand this will not be easy. You will face situations you may not expect. But I believe you can handle it. Mina nodded, feeling both fear and determination. She had always lived a simple life, but now she was stepping into a world of power, wealth, and secrets. She didn't know what lay ahead, but something inside her told her this was her chance. As she left the office, her mind was racing. Mina had no idea that meeting Armin was only the beginning. Their lives were about to collide in ways neither of them could predict, and the journey ahead would change them both forever. The next morning, Mina arrived at the towering office building again, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and curiosity. She still did not fully understand what Armin expected from her, but she had no choice. Her family depended on her, and this opportunity was too important to ignore. Armin was waiting in his office, already reviewing some documents. His expression was serious, his eyes scanning the papers, but as soon as he saw Mina, he straightened. "Good, you're here on time," he said. His voice was calm but firm. Mina took a deep breath. "Yes, sir." Armin motioned for her to sit. "Let's discuss the arrangement clearly. I want you to understand everything before we proceed." Mina nodded, leaning slightly forward, eager to listen. "You will stay close to me for the next 6 months, Armin began. "This project I mentioned, it is sensitive. It involves important negotiations, decisions, and sometimes personal matters. I need someone I can trust completely. Someone who can act responsibly even under pressure." Mina's eyes widened. I understand. But sir, what exactly do you mean by personal matters?" Armin's expression remained calm, but there was a faint hardness in his gaze. "Some situations require more than work skills. They require presence, discretion, and emotional support. You will be more than an assistant, you will be a solution to problems I cannot solve alone." Mina swallowed hard. The words sounded strange, almost like she was being chosen for something unusual, maybe even uncomfortable. But she reminded herself that she had no other options. She could not let fear stop her now. I will do my best," she said quietly. Armin nodded. "Good. There will be rules. You will follow instructions carefully. You will not discuss this arrangement with anyone outside this office. Do you understand?" "Yes, sir," Mina replied, her voice steady despite the knot of anxiety in her stomach. Armin leaned back in his chair and studied her for a moment. "One more thing. You will receive compensation for your work, but this is not just about money. This is about responsibility, trust, and reliability. If you succeed, it will open doors you have never imagined. If you fail," he paused, letting the weight of his words sink in, "then it will affect both of us." Mina felt a shiver run down her spine. The stakes were higher than she had realized. But still, something inside her sparked a quiet determination she had always carried but rarely used. She nodded firmly. "I understand, sir. I won't fail you." Armin's eyes softened ever so slightly. "I believe you." The next few days were a whirlwind for Mina. She was introduced to the office staff, shown confidential documents, and briefed on meetings she would attend. Every moment was overwhelming, yet she worked diligently, trying to prove herself. Despite her nerves, she noticed small things about Armin: how he treated his team with respect, how he made decisions carefully, and the rare moments when a faint smile appeared on his face. One evening, after a long day, Mina stayed behind to organize some files. Armin entered the office silently, noticing her focus. "You work late," he remarked. Mina looked up, slightly embarrassed. "I wanted to make sure everything is ready for tomorrow's meeting, sir." Armin nodded. You are dedicated. I appreciate that. He paused, as if weighing his next words. Tell me, Mina, have you ever worked in a place like this before? No, sir, she replied honestly. I've worked in small jobs, cafes, stores, nothing like this. He studied her for a moment. Yet, you are handling it well. That is rare. Most people would struggle or give up. Mina felt a small warmth in her chest. Thank you, sir. I want to do my best. Armin gave a small nod. Good. That is all I ask. Over time, Mina began to see a different side of Armin. Behind his serious exterior, there was a man who valued honesty, hard work, and loyalty. He didn't show it often, but he noticed the little things she did, keeping files organized, anticipating his needs, and even the way she tried to ease tense situations with a calm word. One day, as they were reviewing plans for an upcoming negotiation, Armin looked at Mina and said, "You know, Mina, I didn't expect you to be so capable. You may be here as a solution to a problem, but I can already see that you are, more than that." Mina felt her heart skip a beat. She wasn't sure what he meant, but she knew this job was no longer just about survival. It was becoming something different, something personal, something she didn't fully understand yet. As she left the office that night, Mina walked through the city streets, the lights reflecting on the wet pavement from a light rain. Her mind was racing with thoughts of the coming days, the challenges she would face, and the strange bond that seemed to be forming between her and Armin. For the first time in a long while, Mina felt a spark of hope. Maybe this arrangement, strange as it was, could change her life forever. Days passed, and Mina became more familiar with the routines of Armin's office. Every morning, she arrived early, organized the documents, and reviewed the day's agenda. Though her role had started as something forced, she now felt a sense of purpose she had never experienced before. She was not just helping a billionaire CEO, she was becoming part of something larger than herself. Armin, on the other hand, had begun noticing Mina in ways he hadn't expected. He admired her dedication, her patience, and the way she carried herself despite the pressure. Though he rarely expressed his feelings, a quiet respect had begun to grow for her. He found himself looking forward to the moments she explained reports clearly, offered suggestions, or simply smiled politely when he looked up from his work. One rainy afternoon, Mina was arranging documents for an important negotiation the next day. The office windows were streaked with raindrops, and the city outside seemed distant and gray. Armin entered silently, carrying a folder. He paused when he saw her, noticing the way her hair stuck slightly to her forehead from the humidity and the way she bit her lip in concentration. "You've been working for hours," he said, his voice calm but carrying concern. Mina looked up and forced a small smile. "I want everything to be perfect for tomorrow, sir. I don't want to make any mistakes." Armin studied her for a moment. "I trust you. You've done well so far. You don't need to overwork yourself." Mina's cheeks flushed slightly. I just want to help, sir. I want to do my best." Armin nodded silently, then walked over to the window, glancing at the rain-soaked streets below. For a moment, he seemed lost in thought. "You know," he said finally, "not many people would have the patience and focus you have. Most would have given up by now. But you keep going. That is rare." Mina felt her heart warm at his words. No one had ever praised her like that before. "Thank you, sir," she whispered softly. Over the next few weeks, their days were filled with meetings, reports, and endless planning. Yet, in between the business, small moments began to appear, unexpected, but meaningful. Armin would leave a cup of tea on her desk before a long meeting, silently acknowledging her efforts. Mina would bring extra notes, reminders, and occasionally, a quiet word of encouragement when he seemed stressed. One evening, after a particularly long day, Mina stayed behind to finish some paperwork. The office was quiet except for the soft hum of computers and the occasional sound of the rain outside. Armin entered, noticing her still at the desk. "You're here late again," he said, his tone carrying a mixture of curiosity and concern. "I just wanted to finish everything before I leave, sir," Mina replied, looking up with a tired smile. Armin walked closer, holding 2 cups of coffee. He handed one to her. "Drink this. You need a break." Mina hesitated, then accepted the cup. The warmth of the coffee was comforting, but even more comforting was the unexpected care in Armin's gesture. "Thank you," she said softly. They worked in silence for a few minutes, side by side. Then Armin spoke, almost casually, "Tell me about your life before all this. You never talk about it?" Mina's hands paused over the papers. For a moment, she hesitated. Sharing her life felt strange. This powerful man had no reason to know about her struggles. But something in his voice made her feel safe enough to speak. I had to grow up fast," she began quietly. "My parents passed away when I was young, and I had to take care of my brother. We didn't have much, but I did what I could. I worked in cafes, small stores, anything to keep us going." Armin listened silently, his gaze thoughtful. He did not interrupt or offer pity, just listened. "You've been through a lot," he said finally. "Yet here you are, handling a situation most people couldn't manage. That says a lot about you." Mina felt a lump in her throat. No one had ever looked at her and seen her strength, her determination. She nodded, trying to smile. I just do what I have to." Armin gave a small nod. "And that is why I trust you. Not because of your skills alone, but because of who you are. You handle challenges, even when life is unfair. That is rare." For the first time, Mina felt something shift. Their relationship was no longer just about work or obligation. There was a connection forming, a quiet understanding, a growing respect, and maybe something more subtle, something neither of them fully understood yet. As she left the office that night, the rain had stopped, leaving the streets glistening under the city lights. Mina walked slowly, thinking about the strange bond that was developing between her and Armin. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, she felt that life could be more than survival. It could be meaningful. Little did she know, the challenges ahead would not just test her skills, they would test her heart, and the connection between her and Armin would grow in ways she could never imagine. Mina felt her life had begun to settle into a rhythm she could manage. The office days with Armin were challenging, but she was growing more confident, and the quiet moments they shared had begun to feel familiar. She noticed the small gestures he made, and he noticed the care she took in every task. Yet, neither of them fully realized how much their lives were about to change. One morning, Mina felt a strange wave of dizziness as she prepared breakfast for her brother, Sammy. She shook her head, thinking it was just fatigue from the long nights at the office. But over the next few days, the dizziness returned, paired with sudden nausea and extreme tiredness. At first, she tried to ignore it, thinking it would pass. But when she felt unusually weak during a busy day at the office, she knew something was wrong. Hesitantly, she decided to visit a doctor after work. The doctor's office was quiet, and Mina's hands trembled as she sat down in the examination room. After a few tests, the doctor gave her a gentle smile. "Mina, it looks like you're pregnant." The words hit her like a sudden storm. Her mind raced with questions. How could this happen? She thought about her life, her responsibilities, and now a child. Her heart pounded, not just with fear but also with a strange mix of wonder and worry. She left the clinic feeling overwhelmed. The city streets seemed louder, more crowded, more chaotic than ever. She thought about Armin, the man who had come into her life unexpectedly. How would she tell him? What would he think? The next day, she tried to act normal at the office, but Armin noticed something was off. His sharp eyes observed her hesitation, the way she avoided meeting his gaze, and the occasional pale look that crossed her face. "You're distracted," Armin said, leaning on the edge of her desk. His voice was calm, but there was concern underneath. "What's wrong?" Mina froze, unsure if she should speak. She wanted to tell him, but the fear of his reaction held her back. I'm fine, sir," she said softly, forcing a small smile. Armin studied her, not convinced. "Mina, I don't think you're fine. You've been different these past few days. You know you can tell me anything, right?" Her heart ached at his words. She wanted to trust him, but she was afraid. "It's personal," she whispered. Armin nodded slowly, but his expression softened. "I understand. But remember, you're not alone here. Whatever it is, we can face it together." Mina's eyes filled with tears, but she blinked rapidly to hide them. She couldn't tell him yet, not until she knew what she wanted to do herself. That evening, Mina walked home through the quiet streets. She thought about her future, about the child growing inside her, and about Armin. She realized that her life had changed completely. No longer was she just a helper in a strange arrangement. She was carrying a life, a responsibility that would tie her to someone else forever. Meanwhile, Armin could not stop thinking about Mina. Her unusual behavior, her quiet smiles that sometimes hid worry, her dedication, it all made him realize something he hadn't expected. He cared for her, deeply. The thought both startled and unsettled him. He had never felt this way about anyone, especially someone from outside his world of wealth and power. The next morning, Armin called Mina into his office earlier than usual. He looked at her with a mix of concern and curiosity. "Mina, you can't hide things from me for long. I notice everything. Please, if something is troubling you, tell me." Mina's chest tightened. She had rehearsed how she might speak, yet when the moment came, words felt impossible. Her eyes met his, filled with fear and uncertainty. "Sir. I need to tell you something important," she said quietly. Armin leaned back, his expression serious but patient. "Go ahead. I'm listening." She took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly. I found out recently that I'm pregnant." Armin blinked, his mind momentarily frozen. The words sank in slowly. Then, instead of anger or shock, he felt something unexpected, tenderness, a strange warmth he had never associated with himself. He leaned forward slightly, his voice calm but soft. "Mina. I see." Mina looked at him, unsure of what his reaction meant. She held her breath, waiting for disappointment, for rejection. But Armin's gaze remained steady, his sharp eyes showing care rather than judgment. "This changes things," he said finally. "But not in a bad way. We will figure this out together. You are not alone in this." Mina felt a wave of relief wash over her. For the first time since she learned about the pregnancy, she felt hope. Armin, the man who had seemed distant and cold, was offering support, understanding, and even protection. As she left the office that evening, her heart was heavy with worry but also strangely light with hope. Life had thrown her a challenge she never expected, but for the first time, she felt that maybe she wouldn't face it alone. Little did she know, the days ahead would test both her courage and Armin's heart in ways they could never imagine. The following morning, Mina could barely concentrate. She moved through her usual tasks with a distracted mind, her hands shaking slightly as she sorted documents and prepared the office for the day. Every few minutes, she glanced at the door, wondering when Armin would notice her unease. He did. Armin had always been observant, but now his concern deepened. Mina's behavior was different, quieter, more hesitant, and tinged with worry. Finally, during a brief break in their work, he walked over to her desk. "Mina, please sit with me for a moment," he said gently. Mina's stomach tightened. She nodded and followed him to a quiet corner of the office. The city noise outside seemed distant as she faced him, her heart pounding. "I've noticed you've been troubled," Armin began, his voice calm but firm. "I want you to tell me the truth. Whatever it is, you don't have to face it alone." Mina looked down, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. She had rehearsed this moment many times in her mind, but now that it had come, words felt fragile and insufficient. Finally, in a quiet voice, she whispered, I'm pregnant, Armin. I didn't plan this, and I don't know what to do." Armin froze for a moment, absorbing her words. His mind raced, but he forced himself to remain calm. He looked at her, really looked, and saw not just the woman before him, but the courage, the strength, and the vulnerability she carried. You're carrying a child," he said slowly. "This is unexpected." Mina nodded, tears threatening to fall. "I was scared to tell you. I didn't know how you'd react. I don't want to lose this job, and I don't want to lose you." Armin's expression softened. He reached out, placing a reassuring hand over hers. "Mina, you could never lose me. This changes things, yes, but not in the way you fear. I care about you. More than I expected, more than I thought possible." Mina looked up, stunned. She had expected anger, disappointment, or even silence. Instead, she found understanding and warmth. Her heart raced, a mix of relief and newfound hope flooding through her. Armin continued, his voice calm but firm. "We will face this together. The child, you, me will find a way. I don't know all the answers yet, but I promise you this, you will not be alone in this journey." Mina felt tears slip down her cheeks, but this time, they were tears of relief and gratitude. "Thank you, Armin," she whispered. I didn't think anyone could understand." He smiled faintly, the corners of his lips lifting for the first time in weeks. "You've shown strength from the very beginning. Now it's my turn to show that I can support you. This will not define you as a problem. It is a part of our future, and I will be here every step of the way." For the first time, Mina felt a true sense of security. The fear that had gripped her since discovering her pregnancy began to fade, replaced by trust. She realized that Armin was no longer just her employer or the man who had forced her into this unusual arrangement. He was someone she could rely on, someone who saw her worth beyond her role. Over the next few days, their relationship began to shift. The office still required their focus and attention, but there was now a quiet understanding between them. Small gestures carried meaning. Armin would check in on her more often, ensuring she rested and ate properly. Mina, in turn, felt a deeper commitment, not just to the work but to the bond that was growing between them. One evening, after another long day, Mina and Armin walked together toward the office exit. The city lights shimmered on the streets, reflecting in the puddles left from a recent rain. Mina felt the chill of the evening, but she also felt a warmth from within, a sense of safety and belonging. "Armin," she began hesitantly. "I'm still scared, about everything. The child, the future, the expectations." He took her hand gently, stopping her in the middle of the sidewalk. "It's natural to be scared," he said softly. "I was scared too, but fear doesn't mean we cannot move forward. We will learn, we will adapt, and we will grow together. You are not alone." Mina felt a surge of emotion. She realized that in Armin's words, there was more than reassurance, there was love, protection, and commitment. She squeezed his hand, feeling a deep connection she hadn't expected to find. That night, as she returned home to her small apartment, Mina allowed herself a moment of quiet joy. Her life had taken an unexpected turn, but it was no longer just a challenge to survive. With Armin by her side, she felt hope, courage, and a growing belief in a future she could embrace. Little did she know, the challenges ahead would continue, but the bond they were forming would give them both the strength to face whatever came next. Together, they were no longer just a CEO and his employee, they were two hearts finding their way toward trust, love, and a shared future. The days after Mina revealed her pregnancy passed in a strange but comforting rhythm. The office was busy as always, yet there was a calm understanding between her and Armin. Gone was the strict distance, in its place, a quiet support that made Mina feel safer than she had in years. Armin began taking steps to ensure Mina's comfort. He adjusted her work schedule, allowing her to leave earlier, and personally checked on her well-being throughout the day. Mina was touched by the effort, but even more so by the sincerity in his actions. He wasn't just being polite or strategic, he genuinely cared. One afternoon, Armin called Mina into his private office. She entered nervously, expecting another discussion about work. Instead, he gestured for her to sit and smiled warmly. "Mina," he began, "I've been thinking. About you, about the child, about us." Mina's heart raced. She looked down at her hands, unsure of what to say. "I want you to know," Armin continued, his voice steady and calm, "that I accept this. You, the child, everything. We will face it together, and I will support you in every way possible." Tears filled Mina's eyes. She had imagined so many worst-case scenarios, yet here was Armin, offering her not just support, but full acceptance. "Thank you. I don't know what to say," she whispered. "You don't need to say anything," he replied. "Actions matter more than words. And I intend to show you, every day, that you are not alone in this. We will build a future together one step at a time." Mina felt a warmth spread through her chest, a combination of relief, hope, and something deeper. For the first time in her life, she felt truly protected and valued, not for what she could do, but for who she was. In the following weeks, Armin and Mina's relationship continued to grow. Their interactions became more relaxed, their conversations more personal. They shared small joys, coffee breaks with quiet laughter, evenings reviewing documents side by side, and discussions about the future in which Mina's voice was heard and respected. One day, as they walked through the city park after work, Armin paused to watch the children playing nearby. He turned to Mina, his expression thoughtful. "I've never been one to consider family," he said quietly. "But now, I see it differently. I want to be part of this, with you, with our child." Mina smiled, her eyes shining. "I was afraid," she admitted. "Afraid you wouldn't care. Afraid you'd see this as a problem." Armin shook his head firmly. "No. This is not a problem. Life is full of surprises, and this is one I want to embrace. You've shown me that family can be more than tradition or expectation, it can be love, trust, and connection. And I want that with you." The sincerity in his words touched Mina deeply. She realized that their bond had transformed from a forced arrangement into something genuine. She no longer felt like a tool or a solution, she felt like a partner, valued and loved. Back at the office, Armin made sure that Mina's comfort was a priority. Meetings were scheduled around her health, and she was encouraged to take breaks whenever needed. Staff members noticed the change too. Mina's confidence had grown, and she carried herself with a quiet pride that reflected the support she now received. One evening, as Mina prepared to leave, Armin called her. "Wait," he said, handing her a small folder. "I've organized everything for tomorrow's meeting. You don't have to worry about a thing." Mina looked at him, surprised. "You did all this for me?" Armin smiled faintly. "We are a team now, Mina. That means sharing responsibilities and looking out for each other. I want you to focus on your health and our future. Mina felt a deep gratitude. Thank you, Armin. Truly. He placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. No need to thank me. We're in this together. As she walked home that night, Mina felt a sense of peace she had never known. The fear and uncertainty that had plagued her since discovering her pregnancy had begun to fade. She knew challenges would come, but now she had someone by her side who would face them with her. For Armin, the acceptance of Mina and their child had awakened a new understanding of life and love. He realized that power and wealth could not fill the emptiness he had once felt. What mattered now was connection, trust, and the bond he shared with Mina. Together, they were no longer just a CEO and an employee navigating a strange arrangement. They were two people building a shared future, ready to embrace the joys and responsibilities that life would bring. And in that quiet understanding, both Mina and Armin found something neither of them had expected: hope, love, and the promise of a new beginning. The morning sun poured softly through the windows of Mina's apartment, casting a warm glow over the room. Mina sat quietly, her hands resting on her growing belly, feeling the gentle movements of the child inside her. She smiled, a mix of wonder and nervousness in her eyes. The day she had been anticipating had finally arrived, the day she would meet the little life she had carried for months. Armin sat beside her, his hand covering hers. His usual calm and composed demeanor was softened by the excitement and tenderness he felt. He had always been a man of control, of decisions, and precision, but today he was filled with emotions he could not contain. He looked at Mina and saw not just the woman he had grown to respect and love, but the mother of his child, strong and courageous in every way. Are you ready? Armin asked softly, his voice filled with concern and warmth. Mina took a deep breath, nodding. As ready as I can be, she replied. Her heart raced, but the fear that had once consumed her had been replaced by trust in herself and in Armin. The hospital was bright and quiet, a soft hum of activity in the background. Doctors and nurses moved efficiently, giving instructions and reassurance. Mina felt a mixture of anxiety and excitement as she lay on the bed, Armin holding her hand, grounding her with his presence. Hours passed in a blend of anticipation and pain, yet through it all, Armin remained by her side. He whispered encouragement, held her hand tightly, and never once let go. Mina felt his support in every word, every gesture, every moment. She realized that the man who had once seemed distant and cold had transformed into someone gentle, attentive, and deeply connected to her and their child. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the doctor smiled and said, "It's a healthy baby. Congratulations." Tears streamed down Mina's face as she heard the tiny cries of her newborn. Armin's eyes glistened with emotion as he leaned closer, his hand gently brushing her hair back. "It's beautiful," he whispered, his voice full of awe and love. Mina held the baby carefully, feeling the tiny warmth, the soft breathing, the small fingers curling around hers. She looked at Armin, her heart overflowing. "We did it, together," she said softly. Armin smiled, his eyes filled with a mixture of pride and tenderness. "Yes, together. And we always will." The days that followed were filled with joy, laughter, and quiet moments of bonding. Mina and Armin adjusted to their new life, learning the rhythms of parenthood, the little challenges, and the immense happiness that came with raising a child. Their bond grew stronger with each passing day, rooted not just in love, but in trust, respect, and shared responsibility. One evening, as they sat together watching the city lights from the hospital balcony, Armin turned to Mina. "I don't want this moment to end. I want our family to always feel this way, connected, safe, and loved." Mina smiled, leaning her head on his shoulder. "I feel the same. I never thought life could be this full." Armin took a deep breath, reaching into his pocket. He pulled out a small velvet box and opened it to reveal a simple but elegant ring. Mina's eyes widened in surprise. "Mina," he said, his voice steady but full of emotion, "I don't want to wait any longer. Will you marry me? Not because of circumstance, not because of obligation, but because I love you and I want to build our future together." Tears welled in Mina's eyes, but her smile was radiant. "Yes, Armin," she whispered, her voice trembling with happiness. "Yes, I will marry you." Armin slipped the ring onto her finger, and they embraced, a quiet promise of love and commitment surrounding them. In that moment, the struggles of the past, the fears and the challenges all seemed to melt away, leaving only hope and joy. Months later, in a small ceremony surrounded by close family and friends, Mina and Armin exchanged vows. Their child, healthy and thriving, was the center of their new life. The love that had grown slowly through trials and unexpected challenges now blossomed fully, bringing them happiness beyond what they had ever imagined. Mina thought back to the day she had first entered Armin's office, nervous, unsure, and scared. She could never have imagined that it would lead to this moment, a family built on trust, respect, and love, with a future full of hope. Armin held her hand as they watched their child play nearby, a soft smile on his face. "We've come a long way," he said quietly. "Yes," Mina replied, her heart full. "And it's only the beginning." Together, they faced the world not as a CEO and an employee, not as two strangers brought together by chance, but as a family strong, united, and ready for the life ahead. And in that happiness, Mina and Armin found everything they had ever wanted: love, trust, and the promise of forever.